Well, Pete, today we're going to... Hold on, I have to get that. Okay, that was weird. It was my dad telling me I can call him to save my game for some reason. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, we're going to take a look at... What the hell is a frog doing here? All this nonsense has stopped, I have a review to do. So, now that all this is over, me and Pete are going to review the 3 games that make up the Mother series. Mother, Earthbound, and Mother 3. So, before we review these games, let me begin to give you a brief history of all 3 games. If you want a more detailed history of them, click the thing popping up right now. Or if you forget to do that, or want to watch it after, I will leave the link in the description. So to briefly go over it, the first and third games were only released in Japan, and the second one was released in both the US and Japan. However, to avoid something called sequel confusion, whatever that is, when it was released in the US, instead of calling it Mother 2, they named it Earthbound. So the game starts out with a black screen and some writing appearing telling you the story of a young couple, who for some reason vanishes into thin air, but just as mysteriously as they appear, the husband reappears and begins the hermit as he studies something. So 2 years later, a young boy named Intan, really, that was the name they gave the main character of the game. Gee, did they just take the name of their company Nintendo and just take off the D and the O at the end? That is just lame. I mean, what if I tried to decide that? My name is Paul. Let's take the last 2 letters of my name, so then my name is now Pa. That is just lame. So, as I was saying, Intan wakes up and realizes that something is not right with his home, and tries to leave his room, and then is attacked by a lamp. Of all things, a lamp attacks you. What is it going to do? Blind me? Imagine if that really happens. You wake up one morning, and on your bedside lamp decides to attack you. This reminds me of the movie Maximum Overdrive. Yes, a movie that flopped at first, but is now a cult classic. Does Stephen King take inspiration from Earthbound? Maybe, or maybe it was the other way around. I agree. I got on a tangent. So you exit your room. Wait a minute, the door size has somehow changed. It's big on one side and small on the other side. Is this Earthbound or Alice in Wonderland? Anyway, you then check out on your sister who is being attacked by, you guessed it, a lamp. And you beat that one and then head to the last sister's room, only to find out that she's being attacked by a doll. Upon beating the doll, gee, that sounds like a weird rock band. Anyway, after defeating the doll, you are then told by your sister that you need to look in the doll. Wait, am I to open the very thing that attacked me, to find a music box, and then when played, the screen gets all wavy, and then you are told you learned the melody. As soon as you head downstairs, you see your mother walking around frantically like she has to get dinner ready before Dad comes home. As you talk to her, she knows that you have to venture out and figure out what is causing all the chaos affecting your home. But just as soon as you head out, the phone rings, and your mom asks you to answer it. It's your dad on the other end, telling you that your house is invaded by poltergeists. Gee, do you think, Dad? I was attacked by 2 lamps and a doll. Anyway, he tells you that you have to head out and stop whatever is doing this, but first you need to go down in the basement. But it's locked, and he forgot where he put the key. Gee, Dad, you want me to go into the basement, but you forgot where you put the key. So now I have to find the key, so you venture outside and see your family pet, and speak to him. And the game translates his barking into telling you that if something doesn't seem right, to check it out. And that is your clue to look at the dog's collar, only to find the basement key. Now I can keep going into the story and the whole game, but we have 2 more games in the series to go over, so I will give my review at the end of this mess. The second game in the series is known as Earthbound. However, in Japan it is known as Mother 2, or by the working title, Gaiga Strikes Back. Gee, did anyone decide to copy the second Star Wars film, but replace the word Empire with the name of the villain from the first game? Oh yeah, I forget to mention that the main boss in the first one is known as Gygas, an alien who has come to Earth to take over the minds of things and people. So again, a bit of history here. The only reason it went from Mother 2 in Japan to Earthbound in the United States was to avoid something called sequel confusion. So you mean to tell me that they thought we were that dumb in the United States that we would never figure out Earthbound had something to do with Mother? But then again, at the same time, the first game was never released in the US. Also at the same time, unlike Super Mario Bros. 2, where it was changed from the original sequel of the game because they thought it would be too hard for the players in the United States, which is a topic for another video. So in this one you play a child called Ness, who again is awoken by something, but this time a meteorite crashing into town, and is guarded by cops all over. You then go and set out to find what happened, only to be stopped by the cops guarding the scene. Then you find a way past, but still can't see anything, so you decide to head back home and sleep it all off. You wake up only to go see the meteorite, but then you are interrupted by your friend Pokey. Hey, wait a minute, Pokey. Isn't the name of one of Gumby's friends? Who will we see next? Prickle and Goo? Anyway, Pokey then begins to tell you that his brother Picky, okay, close enough to Prickle, I guess, has run off and then needs to find him, or Pokey will get into trouble. You soon find Picky by the meteorite and tell him that he needs to head back home. But as you start to leave, you are then greeted by a mysterious talking bee that comes from the meteorite, who tells you that he is from the future, where Gygas has already taken over the planet and turned everything living into colossal bricks. And you are to stop him by finding the 7 sanctuaries and learning each melody. You then head to Picky's house to tell his mom that you have to leave. After all that, you get to see the first of your party killed off, the talking bee from the meteorite named Buzz Buzz, who is killed by Pokey's mom, who is mistaken for a pest. Basically, you go out and find all the sanctuaries and melodies, as you gather a group of friends, a girl named Paula with psychic powers, a kid named Jeff, who is a genius, and the final person, a martial arts expert named Pooh. What the hell, Pooh? And it's not even spelt right. Disney spelled it correctly as P-O-O-H. Anyway, you and your friends set out to stop Gygas from taking over the planet, thus avoiding the future that Buzz Buzz came from. Again, I could go on and on about the game, however, it would be too long and we have one game left. Now on the final game of the series, Mother 3. This game takes us on a whole new adventure. So you play as Lucas, who with your brother Claus and mother have decided to visit your grandfather on the furthest regions of the Nowhere Islands. Gee, when did the hometown of Courage the Cowardly Dog become islands? Anyway, you find out that the island is invaded by the Pig Mask Army. Wow, the first two have Gygas, and now the Pig Mask Army. And soon they set out again to gather friends and set out to stop the Pig Mask Army and their leader. At the beginning you go outside and see one of your friends and your grandfather standing by what looks like a small T-Rex. And you are told that if you knock them over, somehow they like it. After doing so, you are greeted by a frog who tells you that he can save your game, and you do so and head back home. And now the first of many fourth wall breaks in the game start when Lucas's grandfather tells you that to save your game, talk to frogs. Well, we went over all 3 briefly, so let's review them, or attempt to anyway. Mother 1, the first of the 3 games. The graphics are okay, but then again, this game came out for the Famicom, and was only in Japan. The gameplay footage I used was from a fan-made translation of the game. If you were to attempt to play the original, all the text and dialogue would be in Japanese. The story, well, it's your typical RPG type story. You set out to stop an evil force while gathering a group of friends to help. The music is good, but then again I'm a sucker for a good RPG soundtrack. The gameplay is good as well, however, the save system is strange. Earthbound, the second of the series, and the only one to ever be released in both the United States and Japan. This game is a classic, and one that everyone who played it on the SNES remembers as well, even AVGN remembered it. And like him, me and Pete review the worst games from the past. However, with this one, we looked at a really great game with awesome music and gameplay and graphics for the time on the SNES, in a time that showed other games vying for attention as well, and RPG hits like Final Fantasy. Too bad this game wasn't received well at the time. It's a great hit. No, this game does not stink, and I highly recommend you play it. Either emulate it or go out and buy yourself an SNES Mini that has it pre-installed on it, or even better yet, get yourself an actual SNES and buy the actual game cart for yourself. All 3 of these games are classic to have in your collection, and a piece of video game history in their own right, both as a series and as standalone games as well. You really don't even need to start with the first game at all, since you can pick up one and play it on its own. So again, a bit of history here. And there's an, oh my god, notifications. So again, a bit of history here. The only reason it went from Mother 2 in Japan to Earthbound in the United States was to avoid something called sequel confusion. So you mean to tell me that they thought we here in the States were that dumb that we would never figure out Earthbound had something to do with Mother? But then again, at the same time, the first game was never released in the US. At the same time, unlike Super Mario Bros. 2, where it was changed from the original... Oh my god. Stupid autocorrect, folks. Ha! He is from the future, where Gygas has already taken over the planet and turned everything living and person into angry pricks. And you are to stop him by finding 8 Can
you talk?
Blah da 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 da. Well, my final thoughts on these 3 games is they're a must-get. I give these games a massive thumbs up. Yes, the first and third games were never released in the US and can only be played via an emulator. And even then, I suggest you find a fan translation so you can understand what is going on. Still, you'll have a great time playing these games, and Earthbound is an instant classic RPG game for the SNES. That the only reason it flopped was there was already a massive hit RPG in the US out, and its marketing slogan was the only one that was bad. For Pete, I am Paul saying peace out and stay frosty. At least the frog hasn't called me on the phone to save my game yet.